The first step on the road to recovery is admitting you have a problem. Welcome to the AA.
Ik zit hier alleen voor de zorg.
Als het ergens over moet gaan,
Zijn de liste. Not the face. Rivers of kun.
iedere overeenkomst met een bepaalde organisatie berust op louter toeval.
Welcome to the AA. Vandaag internationaal bezoek van 2 leden van een van de populairste metalbands van het voorbije decennium, Sabaton. De band werd opgericht in 1999 en nam de demo Fist for Fight op. Een demo waarop de band vooral een klassiek power metal geluid liet horen. Op basis van die demo werd de band getekend door het Italiaanse platenlabel Underground Symphony. Problemen met dat label zouden hun debuutplaat Metalizer jarenlang uitstellen. De band bleef echter niet bij de pakken zitten en releaste op het Black Lodge label de plaat die de wereld als hun doorbraak zou beschouwen, Primo Victoria. Het album werd meteen een succes. Op Primo Victoria legde de band zich voor het eerst toe op het schrijven over historische veldslagen en oorlogsfiguren. Dit zou het handelsmerk van de band worden. Het was meteen ook de start van een niet te stoppen opmars naar de top van de metalwereld. Albums als Atera Dominatus, The Art of War en Coat of Arms volgden en na een grondige bezettingswijziging verscheen het superpopulaire Carolus Rex, waarmee de band een nummer 1 haalde in de Zweedse hitlijsten. Intussen werden de tours langer en de podia alsmaar groter. Op 1 januari 2019 lanceerde de band de Sabaton History Channel. Op dit kanaal werd de historische achtergrond van hun songs uitgelegd in samenwerking met historici en in juli van datzelfde jaar volgde het eerste deel van hun Wereldoorlog 1-2-luik The Great War. De band vierde hun 20-jarig bestaan met een historische show op het Wacken Open Air Festival in Duitsland, waarbij de 2 hoofdpodia in beslag werden genomen. Nog nooit gezien. Ook corona kon deze jongens niet tegenhouden, want op vrijdag 4 maart 2022 komt hun 10e album The War to End All Wars uit op Nuclear Blast. En op donderdag 24 maart 2022 staan ze hier met de Tour to End All Tours in het Antwerpse Sportpaleis. De mooiste quote die ik ooit over de band las, luidde: Sabaton, love 'em or hate 'em, they're having more fun than you. The interview will of course be conducted in the Queen's language of English, and without further ado we would like to welcome the founding members of Sabaton, singer Joakim BRODéN and bass player Per SUNDSTRÖM. Welcome guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Great
cool.
being here.
We gave you a long intro to tell people who you are, because not everyone that listens to this podcast is a metal fan, so sometimes they have to kind of
There
have a bit
exist
of...
such people.
There are some people like that. They're not our friends and we do not trust them. But still. So anyway, you guys had like a crazy night last night?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, last night was just a good night in a lot of ways, because a lot of the easy things happened yesterday. It's just mainly talking. We have a lot of journalists flying in from all over the world to hear our new album. Of course, it's a little bit nervous to play it before we start playing it. But the rest of the day is quite enjoyable, because only thing we do is talk.
Yeah,
we talk to journalists for the whole day.
Are you not sick of it already? Because you're gonna have to talk some more sitting here.
This is just the start of it. I mean, I think that a promo trip for a band like us is like 400 interviews conducted in a short period of time.
Okay.
And they are anything from 20 minutes to whatever long can be.
And we had a band. We had a press day once. We had like 12 interviews. That was crazy. It was insane. I don't understand what you're talking about. You did it in a really special location, though, because you did it in Brussels.
Yeah, in the museum of the
Royal Museum of the Armed Forces and Military History. It's a long name.
Yeah, it is indeed not a very catchy name, by the way, but Koninklijk Museum van het Leger en de Krijgsgeschiedenis. So that's like a really insane setting. How did you guys come by that setting to do it there?
I was already here when we were doing the press for our previous album, and we were doing a tour all around Europe and presenting kind of the new album and talking to journalists. And I met the Belgian press in the same museum. We felt that it was very suitable by then, and I loved the setting, and I was like, I hope we can do something more. But I had no idea that some years later we're gonna do another album about World War One. But once we decided that, this was kind of obvious to go here and do the album presentation at this place.
Yeah, because you did something. Andries was there yesterday, and he told me about that you had like a special surprise for people there, which was like a movie that you guys made, like an animated movie.
Yeah,
or is this something that we're not supposed to say yet?
We can talk about it. But until yesterday, it was a completely secret project.
Okay.
Now the cat is out of the box, and now there will be some talks about it, and we might as well talk about it.
Okay, cool. So, because you just said it yourself, your last album, The Great War, was about World War One. And the second one, the one that you made now that is coming out soon, that you just let the world hear, was The War to End All Wars, which was, of course, the other name that everyone had for the First World War. So, might be a pretty obvious question, but what's your fascination with that particular war?
Well, for us personally, I think it's history in general. However, military history is very suitable for heavy metal.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually the human touch. How, I mean, military conflict, war, whatever you want to call it, how it brings out both the best and the worst in people. And to see, you don't always get the reaction. The people you think is going to do the right thing actually do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah. That's like an interesting thing, because to us, of course, World War One was there's a lot of battles, historic battles fought in Belgium. There's a lot of places where we still can really go walk around and actually see the history. Yeah. But if you would say that this is like the second part about the First World War, why did you feel you still had more stories to tell? What would you say is the difference between the Great War and the War to End All Wars?
Oh, tricky question. Several layers there.
That's what I'm here music. For. You can talk as long as you want. So just go ahead. You can say whatever you want.
Well, first and foremost, it felt like there were so many stories as we started to do the research for the Great War. And even while we were making that album, we realized that, there is no way we can cover this in an album. Actually, we couldn't cover it in 10, to be honest. But it felt like there were so many great stories we were leaving behind. And we thought, oh man, I don't know how we actually ended up with that original collection of songs, but as we released that album, us having a whole bunch of ideas that we knew we wanted to have done, and then Per's mailbox filling up with suggestions from fans.
Okay.
Some of them is like, oh, how could we miss that? Some of them are, wow, how can we have never heard about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a lot of emails from fans, and they kind of like, on a daily basis, they could send, here is a story from my home country, maybe you should do a song about it. And but when we do an album about World War One and we release it, it's like a flood of World War One requests.
Yeah.
And they are all directed in the terms like, how can you do a World War One album and not include this amazing thing that happened? And it's like, oh, sorry, we can't include everything. But and one of the most crazy thing, I don't know, but it must have been around 2009, and we visited Bulgaria. And one of us must have said in an interview, yeah, we are very interested, kind of these sort of these words. Yeah, we are very interested in the Bulgarian history, and one day we will do a song about it. That's a little bit scary to say that one day we will. We if we would have said one day we wish we could or whatever, use any other words, but we said we will. And
which means you have to do it now.
So for the last decade, we have been swamped with requests from Bulgaria, and every time we make a new album or announce a new album or announce a new song, people from Bulgaria is like, you have forgot about us.
It's not there yet.
Where's our song?
And then we do, and sometimes you can kind of get away with it by saying, but it was a song about the Swedish Empire. Sorry, Bulgaria was not on the map.
Yeah.
But then we do an album about World War One, the Great War, and there are a lot of involvement on the Balkan front, which include Bulgaria, including their most famous, let's say, battle. And we do the Great War, and they're like, okay, you had your chance.
Did you forget about it again?
Sorry for the language, but you guys fucked up.
And that was kind of, all right, sorry guys. That was But now we fit it in.
To be fair, though, we were actually discussing that topic already for the Great War, but it's not always about what we want to put on there. So one of my favorite stories, Hellfighters, so it's a story about the Harlem Hellfighters, who didn't make it on the Great War either. And I really wanted it on there, but we didn't have the music that, was right for the setting. It's kind of important for us that the music and the lyrics speak the same emotional language.
Yeah. And the most obvious. The Christmas truce.
Yeah. Tell us about the Harlem Hellfighters. What was that all about? Why did that story? Why was it so special to you?
Oh, it's the 369th Regiment, African Americans and Puerto Rican soldiers. They're shipping over from the U.S. and they weren't really welcome among their own ranks, so they were sort of handed off to the French, and they called them the Men of Bronze. And fierce fighters. You would have Henry Johnson. I think he's on that picture actually. And the Germans called them Hellenkämpfer.
All right.
Because they were fierce in battle. And I think they never left the front, really. They were never rotated out, so they spent a long time in combat.
That's the crazy thing about those days was that a lot of those people also, like in the Second World War and in the Vietnam War even, fought whilst not really being accepted in their own country.
Oh yeah,
but they still went and fought for that country. Yeah, which is kind of like a really weird, tragic thing about history sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't know if there were conscriptions in World War I in America. I actually don't know. I should probably know that. But if we're talking about other conflicts, there are several times where they didn't have a choice if they wanted to go to war or not. And that must suck.
Yeah, definitely.
So these people aren't going to let me ride on their buses. I'm not being able to vote, but they're shipping me off with a gun.
To go shoot at other people that they're going to... Because they want to keep doing what they're doing to us, basically. Which is weird.
A couple of minutes ago, you said a lot of fans are sending in requests for stories. Throughout the years, do you feel like certain parts of Europe, they're more active when it comes down to sending in stories? Because what I found fascinating when I was watching yesterday was when it came down to the Belgian part of it, which is something I know, and it was also accurate. The rest, of course, I don't know about. I was thinking, I was asking myself the question if people in our country, if we're still interested in that part of history, because the more years go by, it becomes farther and farther away. Do you feel like certain parts of Europe, they embrace it more, that kind of past?
Absolutely.
Sure.
It depends a lot on the country and the current, I guess, political and cultural climate. And in general, though, I would say I am surprised every time. I know it, and I know the Polish have a good education system, but the amount of historical knowledge on a Polish teenager's mind is super impressive. And they might know more about, I'd say, I'm not slagging the British here, but they might know more about British colonial and imperial history than the British kid of the same age knows.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? You think that it's because history is taught in a different way there than in the countries that they come from? Schools, yeah.
And they put way more, let's say, nationalic history. They build a nationalic feeling using history. A lot, and also. I think that some of those countries are a little bit more close. I mean, Sweden, there was so long time that Sweden was in war, so nobody lives to know anybody who was there. Pretty much. But you look to the East Europe, the most of our generation, their parents have been somehow involved in either occupation or these kind of things, and they have a very close relationship, and that means that it's very natural for them to want to find out why and how, and their parents have the stories. So some countries are definitely way more, and East Europe is definitely more than Western Europe. Definitely, if you look to the countries that were part of the Soviet Union, these things, they had, it's more closer to them.
But it's also a thing where they recently got their own history and been able to tell it. Because my mom is from the Czech Republic, growing up there during the Warsaw Pact era, sort of. And it's interesting how their stories and their national heroes, they were not okay by maybe the Soviet regime.
Yeah.
And they were taught some things were propaganda and some parts of their history. And in certain countries, their language was being pushed away.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a reaction for them also to finally regain their history. I mean, it's not recent, but I mean, we're still talking the early 90s,
Yeah.
you know, when they started to make their own education plans, I guess. While in Western Europe, I'm only guessing here, but over the years, a lot of the stuff that were celebrated in the past, when people look more closely at it, we sort of realize like half of that is not really something to be proud of.
That's of course the thing with war, because it's an interesting thing. If you have like my parents lived through the Second World War, so my mom told me some stories about when she was a kid, and she lived like in Limburg, which is like a province not too far from here, and they had a moment right before the liberation, which is really crazy, but they had a knock on the door, and there was an SS officer and a regular officer next to him. And he said, like, round up all the men. So they took out all the men and all the boys, like her brothers and her father, went outside. And my grandma said, what's going to happen to him? And he said, die werden allen erschossen. We're going to shoot them all. And they were like, and the other soldier, the other German guy said, die kommen allen zurück. Like, relax, it's just like a bit of a show of force, and they marched off all the men, and it sounds like a scene out of a movie, but apparently this happened.
Mock execution or something.
No, all of a sudden they kind of all started running away. They saw the Germans running in a total different direction, and they heard them yelling, die Engländer sind da. And they kind of ran off, and the English drove in with their tanks and their stuff, and then they started like giving chocolate to the kids, and all the men came running back, and the women were all like, everyone was like crying in the streets because they were so happy that no one was going to be shot.
Fucked up shit.
And that's like a story that my mom told me. I was like, that was like reality for you when you grew up as a kid. So it is so different if you have someone that actually lived through something like that. It must be so insane. So where does this fascination with war come from with you guys? Why is that a thing that became an inspiration for you?
I think it's actually the other way around what people expect. I think people expect us to be, you know, back in the day, really history nerds and into history. And then, you know, that became a part of the band. But it's kind of actually, we had the song Prima Victoria, the music for it, and me and Per were sitting down to write the lyrics, and it's a big sound. We couldn't write about tits or beer or whatever you do in heavy metal, you know? So I
would have loved to have heard that song with lyrics about tits or beer. That would have been really great. You should do a remix one day where you go, well, this is what we first had.
Yeah. That should not end well, man.
Then no one would have heard of us.
Yes.
But still. Yeah.
No, but that's when we sort of, let's do it about, D-Day, 6th of June, 1944.
Yeah.
And we figured, as we're doing it, we had I would say we both had a healthy historical interest before that. And it's not like we had to go to Wikipedia to find out which date it was. But as we were doing that, we realized like, oh, writing lyrics isn't a sort of necessary evil anymore. It's actually interesting. And at least for me, as we did that album, we decided to do the whole album about military history. And people liked it, and we did another one. There was not a part of a theme of a band or a plan at that time.
Okay.
But as time grew on or passes, this kind of became our thing. And over the years, I've become more and more of a history nerd.
Yeah.
So it's actually the opposite.
Yeah, because if you're talking, just anytime you start talking about anything, you can clearly see that it's something that you like to do. You like to read about history. You're a student of history. You want to know what it is. But the specific thing about war, what is it that, of course, because it's very compatible with heavy metal, of course, but there's also this kind of really big fascination with it. Where did that start?
I mean, there is also one thing that we really found interesting about this topic from the beginning was that everybody has a relationship to it. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets their own pictures. I mean, not everybody has lived through war, but everybody, no matter where you live on the world, has some kind of relationship to it. maybe from popular culture or from history or from real world. So when we sing the songs and tell these stories, you get images. You can see what the song is about if you just close your eyes.
Yeah.
You get pictures, and that's so even if you don't know the specific, let's say, what this specific song is about, you can kind of imagine a little bit what it was.
Yeah, because I think probably if you choose, like, this is going to be the theme of the record, and you choose like an enormously important historical event like World War I, you obviously have to do a lot of research. You can't just go and write down anything because people will immediately call you on anything that you do wrong.
Oh yes, they will.
They will, because it's also one of those topics where a lot of people are experts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, in many cases, there are conflicting sources. That's something we're dealing with, not on a daily basis, but it happens quite a lot. That we run into, okay, which data is correct here? You know, so we sometimes try to see, is this way more recent, so pop, or is it more famous archaeologist or historian? So that's a tricky part and tricky walk. But sometimes we are not the experts in this, so we just have to embrace the fact that, and history is a living thing. It, well, kind of isn't, but also is. Any song we would write today, if we sat down and wrote a song today with everything we knew about, let's say, World War II, an archaeological dig or discovery of a document could make every piece of fact in that song false.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Which happened.
Yeah. Did it? Which,
we have
what
the
song did that happen?
The song 40 to 1.
Yeah.
It was written on a vague, let's say, legend from Poland, and
Battle of Wisna.
We made the song. The song became very popular.
Yeah.
And they started to do archaeological, because the let's say the Wisna Foundation or something got suddenly a lot of donations, and they were able to do some investigations. And they found out that the battle was not nearly as impressive as we thought it would be, and as they had painted it to be.
It was 3 drunk guys in a bar.
It's a good start of a joke, at least. You know?
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
So a little bit, let's say, disappointing, because it was so hyped up in the beginning. Like this 800 against 40,000, and but it was because they didn't find enough bullets in the ground that would suppose that there was ever a big fight. So
of that magnitude,
of that magnitude.
It's not like it's not like it didn't happen. It's more a thing of, has the story gotten better with every retelling, and then add 70 years of retelling that story.
I mean, obviously they the core of the story happened. And they found when they do the dig out, they found the helmet of the commander that we were singing about. So these parts did happen, and but the magnitude of the battle probably wasn't there.
Do you guys play it live and kind of do the intro like, well, this was not quite as impressive as we're gonna do now, but still
no, I think it has to stay the same.
Still kudos. This is actually the real story, and we're sticking by it.
Well,
if you probably read hundreds of war stories by now. Is there something that really stands out, or like a line, something that always comes back? Of course, there's the bravery thing in a lot of war histories, but something that you find people would not expect from most war stories.
Yeah, there's one thing I've noticed, sort of, is how it's treated differently. The whole subject and topic of war and the human suffering is that. We were done and presenting our previous album, The Great War, and on one of the sites in Fort Beaumont, I am in one of our Sabaton history episodes. I'm sort of drinking a beer there on the battlefield, and of course there's a lot of pathetic keyboard warriors who's like, "Oh, that's disrespectful to the soldiers." And then knowing soldiers, having spoken to soldiers, who's been in actual combat, sometimes you would actually go to a grave and you would have one beer for you and one beer for your fallen comrade, and to see how, meeting people who fought in World War II, and when they start to open up, it's hard. Not too many people want to actually open up and talk about it. but the wicked sense of humor, how they normalized everything, what a kind of black humor you have on the battlefield, and shit just happened. It's a way, humor is a great way to release and to cope with these feelings. And people who haven't seen combat and are often taking offense on others' part, they do not get that, and it's totally wrong, the whole picture.
Yeah, because of course, I think that's one of the most human things that you usually can do is try to have a sense of humor to not go insane.
Exactly.
Because there's gonna be moments that you can kind of go, well, we're gonna have to laugh at this because it's just too much suffering in one day.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing about the First World War that always kind of triggers the imagination, like where you had the Second World War, which was obviously kind of a united front against an ideology that wanted to take over the world, and you had like more black and white thing. The First World War seemed like an escalation of everybody got into the war because someone they were allied with was in the war, and you had a lot of really pointless battles where a lot of young people died for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it feels like one of the prime examples, at least for me, of huge fucking waste of life.
Yeah,
it's insane. Pardon my language, by the way.
No, you don't have to.
There have been other people here in this room.
There's been way worse language in this one. No problem.
Question: when you guys just met, what was your favorite band right before you did your first rehearsal of Sabaton?
I think by the time we started to by the time we formed Sabaton, we were all kind of let's say into the era of quite symphonic power metal, because that was quite big at that time.
Yeah, but I think also that Rhapsody we listened to a lot. But I mean, at the parties we blast Halloween and Judas Priest Painkiller, stuff like that.
The classics.
Yeah,
great album.
Classic 80s hard rock and metal, I guess. That's the solid base that we all share in Sabaton.
But I guess that when we formed it, we had some idea that symphonic power metal would be an way to go.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I thought. What I was going to do when I play keyboards in a symphonic power metal band. That's why I got into the band.
Yeah. And
did you kind of become a singer by default, or
no, by accident?
Yeah, yeah.
But Peter, you were the guy that started it all. I mean, that's how it's.
I mean, we had something. We had a band. We were rehearsing covers, but we didn't have anything at all, basically, until Joakim came. And when he came in, he had songs, and he also took the microphone to show, and it sounded like, okay, he's better than anybody else to sing. So
in the room or in the world?
In the room.
Trust me, I've heard. I still have the early demos. It's not nice.
So we kept him singing, but
they told me you'll sing until we find a singer.
But
in 2005, they told me, "No, we found a keyboard."
That's what James Hetfield said as well. He was always singing until they would actually find a singer, but in the end, he just turned out to be the one that did it. Yep. So, yeah, that's a good thing.
But I don't think that there was really a Sabaton before Joakim joined. I mean, that's like when it became something.
But you guys were friends already, or was it?
No, we didn't know each other. It was through the drummer.
Yeah.
So. I mean, we were rehearsing, and we had a drummer, and that drummer had a party in his parents' house, and people destroyed his house, and his parents forced him to sell the drum kit so he could pay for the damages of the house. So we lost our drummer, and then we had another drummer coming in, and he knew Joakim, so he brought in Joakim quite quickly.
So you're kind of glad the guy trashed his house, because otherwise this would never have happened.
Yeah, it was a great party, I guess, and it turned out very good afterwards for some people. For some people, maybe not so.
Yeah. It's a good story, though. I mean, at least he was part of a good story.
Yeah.
How was it like starting out? Because I'm sure you guys never had an idea that it would actually grow out to be like the phenomenon that it is now. So. When was the moment that you guys, like, it's a two-part question, how was it in the beginning, and when was the moment that you guys realized we're on to something here? or there's something
there are
happening
two things. I mean, first of all, you start. You have dreams. You want. You wish. And you think, because you are quite naive in the beginning, and you think that we can be that something big. But at some point you wake up, and I think an important thing, because when you start out with a young band, you're gonna have friends and families and stuff like that. Says, "Oh, you're great," but you're
not.
You are not, maybe. But I think that a significant thing here is that when somebody who is not a retarded person comes and say to you, "You are my favorite band," and you have no whatsoever connection.
Yeah.
Because you are not just good. You are somebody's best thing in life when it comes to music. That is a changing thing.
Yeah.
And if you just can build out of that, but at least you have established yourself above everything else that has been existing in somebody's thing.
Yeah.
That is a key thing. Like, wow. It's something to think about. You know, we are the best thing this person know, and this person likes music. That is important. But from that, it takes a long time until you have thousands of those.
Yeah.
And you need thousands of those. But it is a first step.
Yeah. And when was the moment that you kind of felt like, hey, this is kind of starting to look like thousands of those instead of just a couple of really big fans?
We did well quite early. We grew fast. We did good shows already in 2000. I mean, before Prima Victoria, it was sort of slow. But that one...
Looking back at our history, I think the first times I can see, hey, that's actually not bad. And that's like 2006, you know? That's when I think, you know, okay, the harmony vocals are there, and, you know, we don't suck on stage, you know, our movements look natural, and it could be, you know, seen as a professionally put together show. And I think that's sort of like 2006 sometime when that started happening.
Because how was it for you to step away from the keyboards and like you take the microphone, you go up to the front, all of a sudden you're the front man? Did it take you a while to get used to being that?
In my mind, I think it took a decade to not see myself as the keyboarder originally. And I think the scary part is I realized when we had been, you know, touring, doing maybe 120 to 150 shows in a couple of years, and we're coming back to write new music for another album.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting down with a keyboard or the piano, I can't remember, just starting to write songs.
Yeah.
And, you know, I haven't played in such a long time. And that's when I realized, well, I'm not a keyboarder either now. Shit.
Because I the first time I saw you guys was when you opened for Dragon Force.
Oh.
You guys were on the Dragon Force tour, and that was Bebop.
Yeah,
I was there, and there was like a good friend of mine was really into Dragon Force, and he was like, "Oh, you got to come along. Those guys are fucking insane with their solos and stuff." And I was like, "All right." And you guys opened, and I still remember because you have like a pretty distinctive look because you had the mohawk already, and I was like, who are those guys? And you didn't have the military look then yet. It was like more like a vest with some metal patches on it, and
different clothes.
But what I did realize without knowing who you were was that everybody there knew who you were, and it was like you were like very, very successful for an opening band, because I'd never heard of Dragon Force either. So there was like a good pal of mine that said, come along, this is going to be fun. And it was, but the thing that I remembered every time when you started coming up, like a couple of years later, where you saw more and more people that had like Sabaton shirts, I was like, oh yeah, that's that one band in Bebop that was actually already basically blowing the roof off the place, and I didn't even know who they were.
And trust me, we had no idea because I think that night was our first show in Belgium, right?
It was. I mean, this was our first international tour. So and it was our first night in Belgium, and
we were blown away by it because I don't know how, but it's like one of the foreign countries that first sort of embraced us was Belgium.
Yeah.
I mean, we remember that from that night in Bebop, playing there again. Then in 2007, we did Grass Pop for the first time.
Yeah.
And we were going on stage in one of the tents, and we were like, okay, there's a few people here, but not too many. But that's when we were rigging. And then when we came out, we changed into stage clothes, and got out to play. And then, where the hell did all of these people came from? There must be 5, maybe 10,000 people here.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I mean, at least for me, maybe for nostalgic reasons, or maybe because it's one of the better festivals in the world, I always sort of really enjoy coming back to Grass Pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob was there last night as well, by the way.
Yeah. But that's the thing, because when I saw you, like you said, it's your first tour that you ever did here. It didn't seem like it, because when you were there, it seemed like, oh, this is a band that's been here, like, that's been building a fan base for years, because everybody there was like, everybody sang along, everybody knew your stuff, and it was like a thing like, oh, why have I never heard of this band before? That
Trust
was like
me, it was a surprise for us as well.
Yeah.
A nice one, though.
Well, that's good.
We had it was early. I don't think that the chain is. I know that the chain doesn't exist anymore. The Metal Zones.
Yeah.
But the owner of the Metal Zones, he was pushing Sabaton a lot in the beginning, and no other
local rock bars as well. I know.
Yeah, I mean you could tell. I mean, Sabaton was signed to a small label in Sweden without big distribution in most countries. But in Belgium, the distributor, which was basically connected to the Metal Zone, was like, oh, I love this music, and pushed it very hard.
Yeah.
And so I would say that sales outside of Sweden, Belgium was skyrocketing compared to anything else.
Yeah.
And
is that still like that? Because here you play the biggest venue you can play, at least indoor.
Yeah, it's still very strong for us, but the other countries catch up.
All right.
But the other countries, there are considerably. Wow, thank you. More citizens, you know.
Yeah, more people, bigger.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's a thing about Sabaton in Belgium, which is that you are probably the most divisive band in metal.
Oh yeah,
because people either really, really love you or really, really hate you.
Yes.
So is that like a phenomenon that you see in a lot of other countries too? Is it because you're such a specific thing that people either love it or hate it, or what's your take on that?
Well, we can be controversial because of the theme. Some people might see us belonging to a specific political group. Different things are
right wing. Usually,
or something.
That's the thing. Yeah,
and sometimes it is. Well, what we play is at the core. It's heavy metal, catchy heavy metal, isn't it? You know, some people find that cheesy, and us also looking like the village people in camo pants can be off-putting to some people, you know.
That's like the best description of you guys I've ever heard anyone do, actually. So that's good. We're going to take that one along.
And there are haters who also try to, let's say, go after us with the intention of, you are kind of glorifying death and war, and you are profiting from people's suffering and these kind of things. So we do get those kind of hatred.
Yeah.
But we also get the people who appreciate what we do. So, and in the long run, it's much better to be at least meaningful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a band that don't create any reaction or any emotions in people, then I think it's not a good thing.
I think it's a good thing in the long run. In fact, I'm pretty damn certain it's a good thing, because if I look back, and I'm not making any comparisons here in terms of good and bad, but Kiss, everybody hated them or loved them. Rolling Stones, everybody hated them or loved them. There aren't that many.
But you know what I think is very interesting, because I mean, let's face it, even if you're a small band, whenever you're on stage, you put your head out of the masses, somebody's gonna love it or somebody's gonna hate it.
Yep.
But what people never realizes, and it's because you hear, like, very seldom you hear very, very, very successful people talk about what it is when you read negativity online. We know it from like mid-level bands, but you guys are on a very, very big level. Does it still annoy you, or at one point you're like, we're having too much success, we can't be bothered anymore, or at the core you're still like, that same kid that was 16 years old and like, somebody says something bad about me?
Bit of both for me, I think. It depends on what it is. If it's just if it's unjustified and wrong, it still annoys me.
Yeah.
If somebody actually just think, no, I do really genuinely dislike their guys because the way they look and their music sucks, then it's like, cool. I mean, I'm not going to be offended by that. There's a lot of bands I think the same of as well, you know. But yeah, if it's sort of unjust treatment or lies, that still like annoys me, and I can have a grudge on that.
Is that true? Can you kind of carry that around for a while and kind of go, if I ever meet that guy?
I'm not gonna go and drink for 2 weeks in depression, but yeah, it can pop into my mind for the next couple of days.
There's nothing wrong with grudges, eh? People,
No.
You always have to be the bigger guy. You don't, eh?
Yeah.
No,
especially
actually,
if you
people
really are the bigger guy.
People always expect you to be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Fuck off.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that.
And there's also nothing wrong with kind of, you know, because that's like a feeling that that you have if you're in a band and a lot of people have an opinion about you, and you're like, what makes you think that we like all your bands too?
Yeah, what makes
Like,
me
you know,
think I care about your opinion?
Yeah. So there's like a lot of that you always have to place in perspective, because it's probably also a part of your success, the fact that you're that big and that noticeable, that it also means that sometimes you're gonna have a lot of people that also are like opposed to it for some reason. Was that snooze, by the way? Did you?
Yep.
A lot of Swedish people do that.
Yep.
Yeah. What's the appeal? Because is there like glass in it or something?
No, it's an old myth.
What is the thing?
It's basically tobacco you put between your teeth and your gums.
Okay.
And it injects nicotine into your blood, basically.
Yeah. What's like the appeal? Does it like taste good, or is it more fun than a cigarette, less bad for your lungs? What is the thing?
It is still really unhealthy. I would not recommend it for anyone, but it's way, way, way healthier than smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. Because you have like a lot of different flavors in it now as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Tommy, our bass player, almost a guitar player, he always tries the different ones. Oh, check this one, it's raspberry mint. And I'm like, oh come on.
What does yours taste like? Is that just like cigarette tobacco?
I don't have the taste flavored at all.
Okay.
So.
Did you used to smoke, or is that just a thing that you've always done?
Well, I did smoke on a hobby level back in the day.
On a hobby level.
Yeah.
Does that exist?
I wasn't hardcore enough.
It's the best way of smoking. I mean,
In a hobby
then you
way.
can enjoy it when you want.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's hard to keep it on a hobby level.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I smoked because I thought it was looking cool,
okay. Yeah, that's
And
why I
then-
smoke too.
and then I like, hey, it's not that cool, so I quit.
Yeah, same here. But it's also really bad for your voice if you sing as well. Well, for me it was. You have some people that can like smoke. Apparently, Corey Taylor from Slipknot smokes like 5 cigarettes before he goes on, and then he's like, "No, that makes my voice sound good," but to me, it made it sound horrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Was never
Some
my
of the
I mean, Frank Sinatra, 3 packs of smoke
true.
a day, you know.
How the fuck did he do
or
that?
whatever. Some of those guys also was like.
Who? I didn't get it.
I think it was Pavarotti or some of these
yeah,
super
yeah, yeah.
famous.
Tenors.
Was like
Yeah, it's
lots.
a totally different thing. But I was listening to another podcast, and a very famous Belgian football player was on the podcast, and the Mid podcast, and he was playing for Inter Milan and all the big teams. But he smokes. And here in Belgium, it was always a big scandal because he played for the national team, because sports and smoking is like water and fire or something like that. But he said it's crazy how in Belgium everybody freaks about it, but in the Serie A, in the Italian competition, which is a very impressive competition of football, a lot of people do it and nobody cares.
Yeah. They're Italians, right? That's like the thing. That's like if someone pretends they're French, they always go, I'm French. It's like everybody has a Gauloise, and it doesn't really matter. So I think it's probably the southern. You can also see it there in the streets.
But
there's still a lot more people that smoke over there, because here nobody, not that many people do anymore.
And I think the point was also because it's not because you smoke like 5 cigarettes a day you can't run anymore. I mean, he wasn't promoting smoking by anything, but it's not always black and white.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been cool when he was like, before I go for my morning run, I always have a nice pack of... It kind of holds it up to the camera too. Would have been nice. One of the things that I heard about a video shoot that you guys had in Tunisia, that for what song was that you guys...
Seven Pillars of Wisdom.
Okay, and was that like a cool place to go to? Was it like an insane shoot? What was it like?
I think everybody has a different opinion on that at the moment. I mean, me personally, I love it. I go back any day. I would love to go there. I loved living in the desert. I loved the tents. Even though there were monsters there, but
spiders and scorpions.
I still loved it. I mean,
were they big? Were they like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's like this. Imagine you're a kid and you're going and you have nightmares about living in your and you want to take a flashlight and look under the bed if there's any monsters.
Yeah.
And there are never any monsters there.
Yeah.
But when you're living in a tent in Tunisia and you think that you want to check under the bed if there are monsters, there are monsters. And that's
what kind? What kind of monsters?
Well, there are the spiders, the scorpions, and the huge bugs. Basically,
okay.
And
if you're talking huge bugs, how big are they? What do I?
Significantly bigger than those of Sweden.
I don't like the significantly.
They're quite nasty.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I sprayed the whole tent with some perfume or stuff, and they never came back. So.
Okay.
I had just to catch a couple of nasty ones the first night, and then they didn't come back. So I was kind of
catch the one we have on the screen there. One of those was in my tent.
What you mean? Like
is that camel?
That's a camel spider.
Is it that?
Oh, maybe not that one. Yes, I had a huge one in my tent. And
but
woke up in the middle of the night.
Huge? How huge? If you would like, how big is it?
Significantly, no.
Significantly.
Human hand.
Holy.
Size.
He has very small hands, people.
So, but regardless of that, and I mean, I like heat as well. I don't mind. Give me 40 degrees warm, and I'll be super happy.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that at all. So for me, it was great. It was the sand was maybe the thing that annoyed me, because when you have sand in the ice, I guess it was a bit complicated sometimes. And to do the shoot, and anybody who has been in the Sahara Desert, not everybody has, but the sand there is different from the sand on the nice beaches that you have.
Okay.
It's way more. It gets everywhere basically, and also the storms out there, the winds, they can kind of whip up the sand pretty badly. And you're standing there and trying to look cool in the music video, and then you see that there's like a wind coming towards you, and you can't do anything. You're like and embracing it, and you have it's like a mouthful of sand in an instant.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but so this kind of happens there, and the circumstances to film was quite extreme. I mean, we lost basically, we lost a lot of the camera equipment, the cars, the lights, the electricity generators. It all broke down. So I think that when we did some shoot, the only lights that were existing was the headlights of a car. And that was how we have to finish it, because there was no more lights. The generators were all dead.
Yeah. And that's because sand got in there and just destroyed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And camera equipment and whatever. So it was a tough recording from that perspective, technically. And the team, when we contacted them and said, okay, we want to do it, they were like, oh, okay, maybe it can be done. And then it's like, what, September? We have to do it in September, end of August or whatever it was.
September, I believe, but
and they were like, are you out of your mind? So the production company couldn't hire their regular crew, because they just said, we won't do it.
Yeah.
We're not going there. We're not gonna do it. So there was another team that joined.
That had no idea what they were getting into.
But yeah, it was a struggle for everybody involved. But yeah, as I said, some people did not like to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an accident, right?
That was an accident as well. That kind of ruined
on the way
everything.
back. We were going in a car collision, and we had a little bit of everything. You had a fracture in your neck somewhere in the
Yes,
spine.
and I mean, obviously the belt But that I didn't have a clue about. But because once you have the accident, kind of go into survival mode and just getting out of there. And it's not like you get hit here or whatever and there's going to be an ambulance and people help you out.
No.
We were literally in the countryside of Tunisia. Nobody's going to come to help us. And the adventure to get out of there, because there's also corrupt policemen coming and they want to take our driver and they want to take us. And we just want to get to a hospital. And that's not really in the interest of the people there.
Yeah.
Their interest is other interests than that.
Yeah.
And
we collided with probably somebody's cousin or friend. And
Yeah.
we're speaking English. They're assuming we're American. Americans aren't very popular around there. So they got hostile there for a while.
Okay.
so, yeah, a bit hostile situation, definitely, and an enormously corrupt place. So we used whatever contacts we had. We had to switch cars and get out of
Did you
there.
have a local guy along with you that could kind of help you
We
out?
had the
when that
driver,
happened?
but he couldn't really do anything here because he was the one who was to blame for the car crash.
Oh.
So obviously the
Okay.
police wanted to take him, so he
Yeah.
couldn't really help us that much, and he couldn't speak English. So with him, we didn't have people there. Normally we had people with us always, but at
The people were still filming the other parts of the video, so we were sort of, our part was done, but the whole production was still there for one more day.
Yeah.
So we had left, and a few broken ribs. I had 7 stitches in my face, in my lip. It was kind of interesting to come out of the crash, and first thing is somebody's really nice and gives you water, and you start drinking it, and it sort of falls out through your lower lip because it's a whole hole there. You know? It's like, oops.
It's not supposed to do this.
Yeah.
and
But so full of adrenaline and, you know, I guess shock as well at the time that you don't really realize until your shirt starts getting wet and there's blood everywhere. It's like, oh, come on.
And it was a struggle to get out of the country. I mean, we raced towards the airport and towards the main city. Thanks to some people that we knew, they came with another car and they got us to the hospital because where we was there was no hospital. So in the main capital there is a hospital, and they needed to treat some of us immediately while the other ones were trying to. Me and later the drummer came and we tried to stall the airplane. So because Joakim was kind of getting stitches in the hospital, and we wanted to stall the aircraft so it wouldn't leave without us, so we could get on. So I was causing all kind of problems for the local airport, and and then Hannes came along and he started to teach them how to play drums. And they thought it was super exciting how to play drums, and they just didn't close the check-in and they didn't close the plane and until Joakim came, and then we like get onto the plane. And when we were boarding the plane, I mean, we looked pretty fucked up because we didn't have a chance to take a shower, change clothes or anything. So we were full of blood and sand and, you know, like really properly looked
Very
screwed.
heavy metal. Yeah.
And so the people saw us moving onto
Or
the plane.
homeless,
It's like,
either
what
one
is,
of them.
what the fuck are these guys? You know, and we didn't look that cheerful. And then landing in Poland, because that was the only plane out of the country, we had to, let's say, get out of there. We had to go somewhere where it was, Europe. And we got to Poland, and we came into Sabaton, being quite popular in Poland. Coming to check in on the hotel at the airport, looking like full of blood and stuff. It's like, it's Sabaton, but are they dying or something? You know?
That's that must have been an insane thing to kind of go through. Because how is it with your neck? Was it like something? Is it something that still bothers you now?
It still bothers me now.
Okay.
It sucks. Of course.
What happened? Did you rupture a disc or break bones or?
I don't know the term for it, but I was into a magnetic scan right after, and they saw something on the neck. This was something that maybe heals, maybe don't.
Yeah.
I still have problems depending on what I do. So I need to sleep on a good pillow. I need to not sit too badly, things like that. So, and
Is headbanging totally out of the question now, or?
well, it's something I do anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of happens. It's like music starts and headbanging starts because it's in the DNA. So,
But you're better. I mean, it's better if you don't anymore. Probably.
I don't know. I mean, I still want to live and have fun.
Yeah,
I don't know. So, but yeah, but there was also like, because as Joakim said, full of adrenaline, we didn't feel anything. But I think 2 days later, and I'm like, then that's when the, let's say, pain comes, because your muscles get so tense, and it's like you do a workout of your life. Right afterwards, maybe you feel just a little bit exhausted, but 2 days later, you can feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So, of course, for the belt in the car, it was around the belly.
Yeah, the seat belt. Yeah.
And I was a bit scared because it was completely black. Like whole belly was black.
Okay.
And full of blood.
Yeah,
And that was
internal
2 days
bleeding,
later.
yeah.
And the muscles were so sore that you can't use your belly anymore, which means you can't basically talk or anything.
Or get out of bed even.
Or you can't do anything. So thankfully that passed because it's just a bruise.
Yeah.
Pretty-
Did you have
pretty
that
bad.
checked up though to see if
Yes,
there was no
yeah,
internal bleeding or
Yeah, yeah.
nothing really bad going on?
I had that checked up immediately, and there was nothing. It was just a little bruise.
How about the rest of the band? Were they okay, or were there like a lot of other broken bones
We
and
have
stuff
a
going
picture
on?
there. It looked really bad on Hannes, but he was lucky. Nothing was broken, so I guess he was super lucky in that
No, when I
sense.
saw that, I thought it was like a picture of like a video clip where you had makeup on, but this is like a real thing. He was like,
Yeah, this is a couple of minutes after the crash.
God
This is
damn.
on the site. Chris broke a rib or two. We don't know how many. But Tommy...
He got away. He was the only one who had a good seatbelt. So
Okay.
that's a huge difference. He was sitting in the front, and then he had a proper seatbelt. The rest
Yeah.
of us just only had this.
yeah,
And worst was our cameraman,
Yeah.
the guy who followed, because he was in the shitty seat.
yeah.
And he was the one who he got really bad, and he still have pains from that.
Yeah. Well, that's it's really crazy thing that happened.
Yeah,
'cause
you see the
if-
car there
yeah.
on the picture. You see
Yeah.
how bad the crash was.
Yeah.
I mean, the car was completely scrapped in there, and
Yeah. How did it happen? Did you notice? Did he not see someone coming? Was there
the
did you-
driver looked
Yeah.
away, and another car came into traffic. So technically, it was our driver's fault. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
It was yeah, you need to be careful in that kind of country if you are doing something like this, that you have local people, because nobody wanted to help us.
yeah.
We were so lucky. There was some international, let's say, service workers ambulance, not Tunisians, that they saw the crash and they turned out around the ambulance. Of course, they wanted to make some extra money, and we had to pay them basically to just stick around. And they came all the time, like,
Okay, guys, we go now. Here's 50 more euros. Okay, we stay.
like it was like, having some money, and then they come and like our boss
Because they
just
spoke
called.
English and French. and,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they,
Our boss just called. We have to go now.
Yeah.
Here, okay. I will call the boss in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, don't call the boss.
What do you mean? If there's in a few minutes there's still 50 euros, are you gonna stay then and not call them for another 10 minutes?
And then came the police there, and I don't know, but the police was like, you have to follow us to the station.
Yeah.
He's like, no, because he was from completely opposite direction from the hospital. It's
Yeah.
like, no, main priority is go to the hospital, not to the police station. It's like, yeah, but you should follow. And like, no, stop it.
even some of the locals who weren't hostile towards us were like, do not go with the
I
police.
think that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why a lot of people don't help you. It's not because they don't have a heart or anything, because they know once police is there, it gets weird. So I think it's I think a friend of ours did like a road trip to Africa, and I think he said as well. It's sometimes it's safer just to ignore it, because if you stop, then there's liability and stuff.
I mean, we left the police without properly finish the situation. So.
But I mean, they had the driver's license, the identity of the driver.
Yeah,
that was driving us at the time. So, and technically,
But we didn't give a proper statement or anything.
No, but we don't have to. We are not the drivers, so that's the fucked up thing, that they wanted to bring us to the police station.
Yeah,
in what universe, in what legal system are we in any way responsible for this?
For anything?
It would be that we would be witnesses to. And
possibly.
give testimony or whatever to, like, this is what happened, and that would be reasonable to do, a reasonable thing to do, but. We never did.
Not right after a car crash. You would kind of let them go to the hospital.
The hospital
first,
would be the first step.
That would be a
and
thing.
Somebody would come by and take the statement. Okay, guys, enjoy.
Yeah. How was that? How was that insurance-wise? Was that like a nightmare, or was it okay?
I mean, insurance covered damages on equipment and covered our health insurance.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah. So that was pretty okay, because sometimes you can have problems as well if it's like in a place where you don't have like the documentation of everything you need or stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like in Scandinavia, and I'm guessing here as well, healthcare is free no matter for what reason you have it.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't remember how much it was for the doctors to stitch me up in Tunisia, but it wasn't enough to even pay the, to bother to save the receipt. I remember almost, it was pretty cheap. So.
You told us that you like playing in Belgium, and you've been here like a couple of times in like the Grass Pop Festival, and you were like embraced by Belgian people as well. What are some of your favorite places to play in the world? Because you guys are playing all over the place. What was like a couple of the most insane things you ever did?
I would say actually one of the strongest memories I have, and I'm gonna freebase it here. They're not in any particular order, but first time in Bulgaria was what in holy hell is happening,
Yeah.
The crowd reaction, and that's one of the first memories where I couldn't believe that how crazy and loud people are, But in general, the southern hemisphere, not southern hemisphere, but southern Europe are gonna have crazier, more active fans than in the north.
Yeah.
And you go to America, and it's, we can have a great show in Canada and the United States, and there's nothing wrong with that. But culturally, chances are Buenos Aires is going to be a lot wilder,
That's what they usually say, that South America is really crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good audience there.
Yeah.
And South. I mean, also shows that have sticked out. Israel have been fantastic. Greece and Cyprus, they have been fantastic when it comes to audiences.
Also coming to other places. I mean, it's not only the concert. I mean, for me, going to Japan for the first time was a big thing. And being there, and, not even thinking of the concert hasn't happened yet, but I'm having the time of my life. And, was it last time we went to Japan, we landed and it was just by accident, the cherry blossoms were flowering. We didn't plan for this.
Yeah, it's only 2 weeks and then they're out.
And we came in during this, and, we have a day off, we go to the park, and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this one thing that, because of course, if you're on the road, you get to go to a lot of different places around the world, and you get to eat a lot of different things too, I guess. So what are some of your favorite things to eat when you're on the road?
Wow. Well, we're on the theme of Japan. Ramen in Tokyo, or anywhere actually, can be amazing. But Japanese food is very polarizing for me, because I love sushi. Everybody eats sushi, or not everybody, but everywhere in the world almost. Ramen and Kobe beef, of course. But when you eat traditional, older Japanese cuisine, half of that is, I can eat everything, but half of that I have trouble swallowing, because it's
an eye looking at you.
It's a fish head. Just the head of a fish.
or some sort of pickled moss with mushrooms growing in it. It was like, what?
You don't like. I mean, there are the things when you have claws and things like that in the actual dish and eyes. Yeah, then it's not.
When your eyes looking at you,
Sounds
it's
like
it's not gonna be easy, pal.
Sounds like an
Sorry.
sounds like an evening at Noma.
Yeah,
That's like the stuff that he sent me when he went to eat
you
there.
went
Was
there?
like, yeah, he went there.
Is it good?
Yeah.
it's an experience, definitely. No. I mean, it's the best restaurant in the world every year, so of course it's amazing. But it's not about it. I mean, of course they can cook really well. But I think you should, if you have the chance to do it, definitely.
I wanted to. For
definitely
a long
do
time.
it because even if you don't like it, you will have a story for days because it's brutal. Because you have like 3 different menus. You have like a vegetarian, you have like a fish menu, and then you have in fall season when I went was the game menu, the meat one, and it's brutal. They you eat ants, you eat duck brain, you eat reindeer penis, you eat it all, but they explain it. And it's about if the nature thing and not wasting anything is if you want to open up yourself for it. And for instance, like the ant thing, which is it's a famous one because you get like a very good apple salad, and you open the apple, and then there's moving ants in the apple.
That's an experience.
That's an experience.
I throw that in the trash usually, but go on.
But I mean, that's already the 3rd course, and you get explanations, and then they tell you it's actually in the rainforest. They don't have lemon. They don't have like what's
Citrus.
citrus.
Yeah,
they don't have
citrus,
citrus, and they use ants. And if you close your eyes and you eat an ant, it's actually the same taste. So. If you, I mean, I'm not looking at enthusiastic eyes here right now for the people who don't watch the video. But if you look at it like that and you close your eyes, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it becomes actually really good. And it's not all the courses are like that, but sometimes there are a couple extreme ones. But I was completely into it, so I would suggest doing it. Worst case scenario, you'll have a good story.
Yeah.
It's expensive though, but.
Yeah. It's worth it if it's the one. I mean,
and Copenhagen in general is a great city to eat,
and it's close by for us as well. You know,
definitely, it's a bridge. So
you guys come from Falun, right? Where is it true? Because I think you had a talk with Andries yesterday that Falun was kind of an inspiration for Mordor. Is that like a true thing?
I mean, there is an explanation by Carl von Linné, the famous biologist or whatever he was.
Yeah, the guy who gave all the plants the Latin names.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
There's a explanation from him, which basically describes the same thing as Tolkien explains Mordor in the Lord of the Rings. That the only thing you would hear was the mechanical sound of the smiths. You don't see the sun because of the fires that blacked out the sun,
clouds,
and you don't see anything that is alive because it's all a black rock.
Yeah.
So this was the description of that.
Yeah.
And for a very far distance around the city, it would be completely black rock only.
Yeah.
So there is we can't ask Tolkien, but it's very close to what it is.
Okay. Because
And,
do you think
Carl-
he's ever been there, or that it was
No.
like a thing where he just...
He probably read what Carl von
Carl von
Linné.
Linné, because he
Yeah.
described it as hell on earth,
Yeah.
and this must be the roughest and toughest and worst place on earth that you can visit, and that's our hometown.
It's not like that anymore. We're
not like
talking hundreds of years ago
But
here.
yeah,
when he
yeah.
wrote
but
that.
do you
Okay.
do you still feel that kind of vibe throughout the city, or is it
No.
romanticized?
No.
It hasn't been the mine hasn't been active, and I mean modern equipment, of course, changed all of that. So I mean, I would assume it probably wasn't the best place in Sweden 300 or 400 years ago.
Yeah.
But for my lifetime, at least, it wasn't never a heavy industrialized city or
No,
like
it's
that.
it's a cozy city. That's what people mostly see about it. I mean, you have the black rock everywhere. That's you have the small mountains and stuff for the black rocks everywhere, and so you get reminded that it's used to be a mining city,
Yeah.
but it's also quite cozy.
Yeah. Okay. Because, well, hell on earth is not a bad place for a metal band to come from, so that's maybe not too bad. What I was wondering about this song that you have on your new album, which is about a really very kind of impressive human being, someone that you might say they don't make him like that anymore. Maybe if they ever did, the Unkillable Soldier, which is a song about. I kind of looked up if this is right, but I think it is Sir Adrian Carton de Wiart, right? Yep. And he's like a British army officer who was of Belgian and Irish descent.
Yep.
And he fought in 3 of the biggest wars ever. He fought like in the Boer War in South Africa, and then he did World War I and World War II.
Yep.
Where did you find that
and
guy?
In the end, he just said the famous words that he enjoyed the war.
Frankly, I enjoyed the war.
Frankly, I enjoyed the war. But you can actually almost hear him say it if you see like the picture with the eye patch. And,
yeah.
Because what was it? I kind of looked him up. He was shot in the face, stomach, blinded in his left eye, survived 2 plane crashes. And this one, to me, was the most insane one. Tore off his own fingers when a doctor refused to amputate them.
Yes.
What kind of a guy is that?
Unkillable Soldier.
That's pretty much true.
You have to see also that one of the plane crashes landed in water.
Okay.
And he saved the pilot. With one hand.
Of course.
Of course. As one does. This is insane. Where did you... What makes a person like that? Does it?
I don't know. I mean, to only say the words, frankly, I enjoyed the war. There must, considering, and he was in the trenches in World War I.
Yeah.
There must be something seriously fucked up wrong with you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because you're almost like, he must be either one of the most like bravest persons in history that did the most insane things, or we can really be glad that there was wars to put that guy, because he would have been one of the worst psychos of all time.
Yeah.
Because that's just it was a guy that I'd never heard of, and I kind of read that was what he was about.
When we discover some of these stories, I think on every album there's like 1 or 2. There's like, how is there not a major Hollywood movie about this?
Yeah.
It could be a serious, factual, or inspired by true events kind of movie, and still be a comedy at the same time, you know?
Also, people would kind of, if you literally film this guy's story, people would go, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
They made up most of it.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Yeah, I mean, there are several things that are unlikely and people wouldn't believe, that are less extreme than what he did on a daily basis, it feels like. But of course, we're talking about his exploits over years and years and years.
Yeah.
But he seems like a bad luck magnet, or maybe good
bad luck magnet.
Wars seem to follow me around everywhere. He had this one quote which I really loved, where he went, "We are told that the pen is mightier than the sword, but I know which one of those weapons I would choose."
Yeah, he wasn't a politician.
No, probably
Very
not.
pragmatic.
Yeah. There's an album that you guys made that was kind of special for you guys as well, the Carolus Rex album, which you guys made because it has like a Swedish theme from your home.
Yeah, it sort of deals with the Swedish Empire. Well, empire, it's a little bit of a overstatement, but
how big was the Swedish Empire?
One of the smaller ones.
Okay.
Significantly smaller than
the spiders in Tunisia.
Yes,
but still, yeah.
It was covering Finland, some Denmark, and some parts of
Russia,
the
northern Germany. Yeah, bits of Norway.
Yeah.
Is there still animosity between Finland and Sweden because of this, or not?
From the Swedish side, no. From the Finnish, absolutely.
Okay.
they still learn Swedish in school, for example, thanks to this, and they have Swedish names in a lot of places because they used to be owned by Sweden.
Swedish is the main language in certain parts of Finland as well, but mostly it's a friendly situation. It might be a bit more animosity up in the north than in the south, while maybe Sweden, Denmark, and Sweden, Norway, it's we all hate each other, but it's all a joke.
Yeah.
And it's mostly a joke when it comes to the Finnish, but there are a few who really don't like us, you know.
Okay. Because I always thought that was like a really crazy situation in Scandinavia, where you have like Danish and Swedish and Norwegian, which is all kind of related to each other, but Finnish is like totally not related to anything except maybe Hungarian. That was like a thing where they said those languages have something to do with each other. How do you have any idea how that happened?
No, maybe we should, but I remember we read about this in school.
Yeah.
But too long ago, I actually don't remember. I know Estonian is in the same family, but it's not the same language at all. That's not what I'm saying. But they're usually being forgotten in this, and there's some similarity as far as I am.
They're usually a lot of vowels. When they're not cheap when it comes down to using the I.
No, but it's fun. It's it's all friendly jokes. But in Sweden, if you talk pretend Finnish, you add an I at the end.
Yeah.
So if it's his elevator, you say hissy, and it's actually true sometimes.
We say police, they say policey.
Yeah,
policey. We say that here as well.
But the funny thing is when you obviously you guys know the international TV shows, The Bridge and The Killing, they all went big. But when we was here also a success. But when we watch The Bridge, for instance, the Antwerp dialect, the place you're here now, sometimes it's almost the same.
Yeah,
which is weird.
Yeah,
like I mean, like the perfect Dutch word, the pronunciation is a little bit different. But if you would say it in dialect way, it comes pretty close.
Okay.
So we're always having fun when it's The Bridge. I mean, aside from the bridge itself, but it's always because of that special police.
Yeah, special police. And if you say it in Dutch, it is politie. It also ends in an E and an I. But if we
in dialect, you say police.
The police.
The police.
And the police sounds exactly the way that they say it in. There's a lot of. I thought there was a lot of similarities if you listen to Swedish or even Danish, which is also like different because you can hear when the Danish guys talk Danish in that series that it sounds different.
Oh yeah,
but it's just it's such a. There is definitely some family between Dutch and Scandinavian. You can really hear some things that are.
Sometimes a lot of the problems is the spoken, the way things are spoken. Because sometimes if I see Dutch, it can be okay. Understand nothing, and then almost a whole sentence.
Yeah,
it's like this is almost spelled identically.
Yeah,
but then if you would say it. I wouldn't have known.
Because I have no idea if I saw you nodding along a couple of times while I was doing this intro, and you were like, I'm like, he's kind of understanding some of it.
But that was because you said the name of the album, you told the story of the
context. Context.
I had the information, so I just needed to connect the dots.
Popular.
I was trying to make you sound smarter than that, but okay, it's good that you kind of shot that down yourself. I had this one sentence that there was like usually on MTV before, like the old MTV, there used to be some adverts in different languages, and there was one, I don't know what language it was, but I thought it was funny because I kind of remembered the sentence, and it was carefree, ren och fresh hela dagen.
Sounds like Danish, Swedish, Norwegian.
Yeah, something like that. I never had an idea which one it was, but I was hoping you guys would help me out with that one. But
considering it was fresh, it's probably Sweden because Norway and Denmark wouldn't use that.
No.
Okay. All right. Cool. Another thing I wanted to ask about was because that's one of my favorite. You were in that museum yesterday, and his plane was actually there. The plane of the Red Baron, Baron Manfred von Richthofen.
Mm-hmm.
What are these people that you are immediately already interested in, or people that you start looking up and go, we're gonna actually devote a theme about that person? How do you kind of choose your subjects for your songs if you're singing about a person?
Some of them are quite obvious. Mm-hmm. They just fit there perfectly. Red Baron, we don't need to look it up so much. Of course, when you start doing research for something like that, you discover a lot more than you knew. But you already knew parts of it.
I mean, him being a pilot and an ace in World War I was something we knew that it's a song already before we start doing the research. While Adrian, the Unkillable Soldier
Yeah.
would be a guy that we came across, in the middle of research. It's like, how is this guy not more famous?
Yeah. But what I thought was amazing about this about the Red Baron, because you've heard of him, like everybody knows about him. He's like with the red airplanes, and like an ace of aces and a great fighter pilot, maybe the best one of all time. I think he shot down 80 planes or something. So it was like, but he was only 25 when he died.
Yeah.
Which is insane, because if you see photographs of people from that era, they all look at least 20 years older than they actually are.
Oh yeah. I think global world war does that to you.
But it's true. I mean, it's true. Like ancient people, they never lived long.
No. I mean, the amount of years we're expected to live, I don't know. I mean, go back 2 or 3 generations, they would laugh. They thought we'd be lying if we say, we were expected to live until 83. Yeah, you good luck, man.
Now that's the thing. We all get a lot older. Like if you see, we're like, if you're like, I'm gonna be like 49 in a couple of weeks, and you're like, shit, that was a really old man in the olden days.
Oh yeah, but it's also a natural reaction, I think, because we are expected to study more and learn more. I mean, everything that mankind knew, at some point, one guy could keep it in his brain. A long time ago, of course. But we do go in school way longer to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
We get children way later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it takes longer to sort of educate yourself and become a human being to navigate life today compared to, let's say, 300 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a natural evolution of things, actually.
But I was listening to online documentary about age, and people today cannot be older than people could be in the past. The DNA stops at some 115 years, and people could be that, and there are old people in the past as well, just less. But there is a certain percentage, and that hasn't really changed. So the people who get really old, the people who get, we get older now than we did 100 years ago, the average age. But the really old ones, they have always existed in kind of the same numbers.
Yeah.
So 200 years ago, 300 years ago, there would still be some people that you couldn't explain why they lived to 115.
Yeah.
And it was really like, there is like all the research is like, it's pretty much by chance. Some people, and it doesn't matter. There are rumors that there are some specific villages where they live longer and stuff, and that is true to a certain amount. But the people who really live really, really long, they are just by chance.
Yeah,
they're just like that. And but there is something like 115 years. We don't get older than that, because after that, there is something that is seriously broken inside and cannot function anymore.
Which they're probably gonna try to fix by working on genes, so we can,
of course,
we can get older.
Would you guys love to be 115 years old?
It depends on how my mental capabilities and physical capabilities are. Because I met some people who are like 60 and they feel really old.
And they're in the half of their life then.
Yeah, and I mean, then you have some people who I met who are actually, 95 or 101. And they're like, dude, that's like a teenager in his mind. No, but sharp, everything is there. They're still active. I mean, obviously, they might not be running ultra marathons, but can totally take care of themselves and still having fun, making jokes, and sharp. And if that's the case, absolutely, why not? But if it means becoming a vegetable for 20 years, maybe not.
Do you ever?
Maybe not.
Did you ever think what you would have become when, for some reason, Sabaton didn't become what it's now, and you had to do like a day job,
like a real job?
I try to not think about those awful things.
No, I mean, it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I mean,
no.
Like another path in life. What if
I would have wanted a fighter pilot?
All right.
That was something I would.
How were you at math?
I don't think I'm too bad.
All right, that's all a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But that could be one thing. And or into, let's say, games development. That I would like.
There's always
That you could still do, maybe.
there's a lot of metal people
Yeah.
into games, huh?
Yeah. We gamers, a lot of us.
What do you do on tour? If you're on tour buses, what kind of movies do you watch? What kind of games do you play?
I like to have it as a relaxation, so I like a lot of turn-based tactical games, sort of.
Yeah.
XCOM, if any of you played that, or Gears Tactics, coming out more recently. And that would be my kind of games, actually.
I don't
I
watch
play
movies.
a lot more than that. But,
Don't watch any movies.
Don't watch any movies? No?
I lost interest for it. And
Okay.
basically TV series and movies I don't watch.
Okay.
For me,
Is there a reason for it? Is it like...
it doesn't give me anything. It doesn't give me anything, sort of. So it's not entertaining enough.
Which
And
is
it's not-
weird. Sorry to interrupt you, because if you look at Sabaton, there's a very cinematographic
Yeah.
thing. I mean, what I experienced yesterday, the movie. I mean, you produced it, so it's not like you have anything against movies.
No.
he still likes some movies. He recommended, what's it called, Ready Player One to me.
right.
Great movie, but
which was probably the last movie I saw. So it's very few times. Very few times I watch a movie. But games is more. I don't know. My mind is always on full, so it has a creative output that just ignites by anything I see or do. And if I watch a movie or something, I get tons of ideas, so I can't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
If I play a game, I have to be fully focused. So it kind of shuts off the output, and then it's easier. So I would, after a day, it's great to just play some game for an hour, and then it's like everything is at peace in the head.
Yeah.
There's nothing more spinning, nothing more happening, so it's easy to go to bed and just like, great.
And you?
yeah, I mean, I'm in the same way. Something, especially when writing songs, I don't work in the same schedule as he does. Almost nobody does. But especially when writing songs, for me, one of the ways to take a break and not think about the song, because sometimes you need that break away from the songwriting, you know. And for me, the sort of therapy was pinball,
Okay.
because it kept me, you know, I had to focus on it to a certain degree, but it's not a game that takes ages. It's a, you know, it can be 2 or 3 minutes for 3 balls, or it could be, maybe if you're lucky, 15, 20 minutes, you know, if you're having a flow.
Yeah.
But then that's your break. And then back into the studio.
Did you see Marcus Steiger's pinball arena?
Yeah.
That
And amazing.
I couldn't believe that.
But you know what?
Yeah.
There's a story about this. Marcus Steiger, to explain for other ones, there was owner of a nuclear blast in the past, and the founder who started it, huge pinball collector. I mean, he has how many pinball?
200, 250. It's in the hundreds.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot, because he has a hangar full of them. Yeah.
And then when we were in the nuclear blast office, he would always have 4 or 5 games, you know? And one time, I think we were doing promo for Last Stand, it was, or something. And they had the Metallica machine there. And I hadn't played it so much. And I played, and I played, and I played, and I played, and I played. And I made the high score, number 1. And somehow, distractingly, he was... Well, stories are told that he wasn't happy about it, and it needed to be fixed. So when I came back, the scores had been reset, and the new high score was lower than mine. It's like, oh, you come on.
So did you go and play again and just beat the high score again?
I tried, but I didn't get there.
Joakim, I know you guys don't watch movies, but promise me one thing: watch this movie whenever you're on the
King
bus.
of Kong.
Yeah.
It's about the story you just told.
Yeah.
It's about a competition between people fighting for the record in Donkey Kong games, and it's a documentary, so it's not really a movie, but it's amazing. The King of Kong.
Yeah, the king. Yeah, there are like two guys that are like rivals. There's like the one that is almost a rock star.
I think I've seen
this.
Yeah, it's amazing. And especially the bad guy. Where is it? What's his name again?
The bad guy in it.
Yeah, because it has like a,
this is the bad guy.
it has like a villain.
Yeah, this is the villain. What's his name again? Billy Mitchell. Billy Mitchell. And
And they have these huge competitions. And
yeah,
stuff.
he was the reigning champ of the king of the Donkey Kong game. And then there's a new guy, some engineer. But I mean, they're not playing for like the high score. It's about the kill zone and what is it? The last stage.
The level, yeah.
Yeah, the last level. So, but it's really, really good. I'm not saying it's funny because it's a little bit creepy as well, but you will watch it. One of the best documentaries I've seen.
It has like the same kind of Metallica, some kind of monster watching a car crash vibe. That you kind of look at it and go, well, this is really horrible, but I can't look away.
Okay, I'll try it for sure.
So that would be a good one. Maybe to finish off, Sabaton in about like 50, 60, 70 years, somebody finds something of you guys in like a time capsule or whatever. What would you like to be remembered for? What is the thing that you think makes Sabaton something, or what would you like to feel you contributed?
That's a really good question, but insanely hard to answer.
Mm-hmm. That's why I asked it.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Inspiration, and I mean, to make young people excited about heavy metal, young people to start bands. I think it's one of the most like fantastic feeling. It's like when people quote us as the inspiration. You know, we have got that far that there are bands who are signed to big labels and they have a working international career and they cite Sabaton as their inspiration. That is great. When you reach to that, and to become inspiring, it's amazing to see people do covers of our songs, not necessarily for the purpose of getting YouTube views, but the kind of people who do covers of Sabaton because they simply like it so much.
Yeah,
that's great. That's one of the, let's say, highest thank you for doing something or tributes that you can get as a band. Like some people put a really big effort into playing your song because it means so much for them.
And for you, Joakim?
Yeah, along the same lines, I would actually say we've been doing interviews for so many times together that we're always stealing each other's answers, you know, depending on who gets to talk first. But I would say also add to that in the sense that we've had people we met who decided to become history teachers, you know, and stuff like that. And if somebody, I mean, the main goal of the band is not to teach history. There are people who do that better than us, and we can't cover a global event in an album or a battle in a 3-minute song. But if somebody gets a healthy or, you know, bigger interest in history and maybe starts enjoying that part, I think that's a very nice icing of the cake or something like that, you know.
Are there heroes that you met? Because you're, of course, because you're playing and you're doing a lot of things and you're doing it on huge stages and big festivals, you kind of get to meet the people that inspired you.
Yeah.
Who were the people that you were most psyched about to meet, and what did it mean to you when you finally met them?
Scorpions. For me.
Okay. Yeah.
I always loved the band and still do. And I mean, there was we had a tour with them. We didn't have much time to say anything to them at that time. We were kind of separated. But some years later, when Scorpions came and did a show, I was invited and I was spending the whole night with Rudolf Schenker, just talking to him. And I think that was, I mean, I've met a lot of people in the music industry. I've met a lot of bands. I won't say that I'm impressed by a lot of them. Many of them, they are quite naive, to be honest. And but Rudolf Schenker was so inspiring to talk to him. So inspiring to hear a person who has that much enthusiasm, that thankful for his life, that was really, really like, yeah.
When
that's good.
you say people are naive, what do you mean about that?
I think that a lot of musicians, not all of them, not the biggest ones. The biggest ones, they are more clever. But in some bands that have some success, they seem to be in it for the wrong reasons, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they don't really understand why they are on that level, why they are playing. They think that they don't understand the wheel, how everything fits in and who does what, and it's
many times egocentric. I want this, I need that, having no understanding for that means somebody else has to work and that has to be paid for. That means it's coming out of your pocket. But since it's not coming directly from that person's pocket, but rather indirectly, then they don't care about it. And then there's a lot of bitching afterwards. Why isn't there any money left from the tour?
Yeah.
Well, you wanted a pool in your hotel room, you know.
You wanted a portable jacuzzi.
Yeah.
You pay for that. Yeah, because that's one of the stories, maybe to really finish off what I thought was really cool, because we know a couple of guys that you worked with or did like video shoots with, and they told me this one story about you guys that I thought was really cool, that I think people should know, even the ones that don't like Sabaton. This is one thing that I thought was really cool. You said, I've never known a band as big as those guys, that when the shoot was finished, they helped me load the van. You guys actually helped him load up his stuff, and you were like, yeah, we're going to help you do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And he said, I've never, ever known a band that is as big as that ever did that. Is that something that you keep to yourselves, like this work ethic, the thing that you say, like, we want to still really know where everything comes from, where we came from, what it was?
I think it's how we raised, but to be said there, and this does not happen every time, because sometimes we have a schedule to keep and then we will move on. However, if we're gonna be there anyway, waiting for our shuttle to arrive, we are raised that way, that then you don't stand around and watch other people work. But we are not gonna, stay around for 3 hours after a show and help tear down help tear down the whole thing,
It's always good when I'm trying to say something nice about you and you kind of shoot it to pieces yourself. So that's kind of
true as well. It sounds like we're some fucking kind of saints, and we're not.
I wasn't saying that. I was saying something nice. God damn it!
But I think, we both come from a quite hard-working mentality. A lot do it yourself, and that has shaped a lot of things. And it means also, alongside the whole road since the beginning of the band, we have done everything that was included in this. Anything from, as you said, helping to carry stuff to, roll cables. We have built our own PA systems for the shows. We have created our own festival, our own cruise. We have done our own marketing plans. We have done our own budgets. We have done our own scripts. We have done our own recording sessions. We have done everything involved, and so we do have an understanding for the people that now do these jobs for us, so to say, because we have been in all the shoes of everybody that we meet, and that's that has to do a little bit with our mentality, that we never outgrew the idea that we want to do things ourselves.
I think the key word you said there is have an understanding for what the other person is doing, because how can you value someone's work or what they do if you have no idea of the mechanics that makes your show happen? You're standing there on stage, you walk on, you do the show, and you go off. But if you do not understand how much time it takes to build something, how many people are involved, then I think it's going to be harder to relate to that, and it might go to your head.
And the same when you do a concert. A lot of, as I said, in a lot of artists are naive. They just, the people came here because we are that good. And that's the simple answer. But they actually came there because somebody believed in that band. Somebody put a lot of effort into attracting these bands, finding these bands fans that existed locally, and finding a way to sell them a ticket, inform them about a show, get them to the show, and pull the show together. But so having promoted our own shows, our own tours, and still do, we also know the importance of how to put up a poster, how much work it is to figure out where to put the poster, and that all the way to setting the schedule for the day. How much time do you need from when you open the doors to people can go in and hang their jackets, to think about things like that and what they do, and to have that in mind, you get the understanding for everything that happened, and then then the artist goes there and play.
And on the 24th of March, you're going to be here with the tour to end all tours in Sportpaleis. What can Sabaton fans expect of that show? Because it's probably like that's the biggest arena tour you've played here. So what are you going to do except play songs?
Except playing songs. Oh, took my answer.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that.
You know what? One thing I'm really looking forward to, and I think we can almost sort of guarantee it's going to happen. Don't take my word for it, but is that there is one thing I really love is to play when we have a new song about a country. And we have a song here called "The Race to the Sea" and the last defense of Belgium and King Albert and everything, and to play that for the first time here.
Yeah,
because playing a song for the first time is fun, but to for the first time experience it in a nation where it happened, there might be relatives, to people who were there and stuff like that. So there's always some kind of extra energy there. So that I'm really looking forward to.
All right. Cool, guys. Thanks for coming by. It was really nice to talk to you. So good luck with the new album. I hope it does very, very well. And of course, the Sportpaleis show, which is the 24th of March, 2022. So everybody that really loves Sabaton, you know where to get your tickets. Maybe it's already too late. I don't know if it's sold out yet or gone on sale yet. I have no idea.
It's gone on sale?
Okay, cool.
We'll put the link on and everything.
Yeah,
so
we'll put everything there.
Thanks.
So you guys, and also Friday the 4th of March, we'll have the 10th album, The War to End All Wars. So Sabaton fans, you know where to go. Per and Joakim, thanks for coming by. It was really nice to have you here. Have a good time in the country, have a good time on tour, and we wish you all the best and see you in the future somewhere.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
You're very welcome. Zo, dat was het voor ons voor deze week, met uiteraard Per en Joakim van Sabaton. Ik ben Alex, dat is Andries. Wij zijn welcome to the AA, en volgende week zijn wij er terug when we make Monday great again.
The first step on the road to recovery is admitting you have a problem. Welcome to the AA.
Ik ben hier alleen voor de zorg.
Als het ergens over moet gaan,
Zijn de liste. Not the face. Rivers of Kung.
iedere overeenkomst met een bepaalde organisatie berust op louter toeval.